Commander Lee Jum stood tall as the doors to the grand meeting hall slid open. This was humanity's big moment, their first official meeting with the Galactic Confederation. Lee straightened his blue uniform and took a deep breath. "Remember," whispered his assistant Park Jin, "just follow the greeting steps we practiced." Lee nodded. 5 years of space diplomacy training had prepared him for this day. Earth had finally developed the faster-than-light travel that allowed them to join the galactic community. Now it was his job to make a good first impression. The meeting hall was massive. 12 different alien species sat around a large round table. Some had scales, others had fur, and a few didn't look like anything Lee had ever seen before. But at the head of the table sat the Valkyrie delegation. Everyone knew they were the real power in the Confederation. The Valkyrie were tall and thin with pale blue skin and large black eyes. Their ambassador, Tol-Nar, wore elaborate silver robes that seemed to flow like water. "Welcome, humans," Tol-Nar said, his voice surprisingly deep. "We have watched your world's progress with great interest." Lee bowed slightly. "Earth is honored to join the Confederation. We come in peace and friendship." The formal greetings went on for almost an hour. Each species welcomed Earth in their own way. Some spoke with translator devices, others used hand signals, and one communicated through changing colors. Finally, Tol-Nar raised a hand. "Now we shall perform the welcome ceremony." Servants brought out small cups filled with different colored liquids. Each species received a specific drink. Lee noticed the Valkyrie themselves drank a clear liquid, while most others received blue or green drinks. A servant placed a dark purple cup in front of Lee. "This is a special honor," Tol-Nar explained. "Each new member receives a drink suited to their biology. Yours has been specially prepared." The Valkyrie ambassador watched Lee closely. Too closely, Lee thought. Was this some kind of test? Lee lifted the cup. "To new friendships," he said, and took a sip. The liquid tasted bitter and burned slightly going down. But Lee kept his face calm and finished the drink as was custom. A strange silence fell over the room. The Valkyrie delegation stared at Lee with what looked like shock. "Is something wrong?" Lee asked. Tol-Nar's face had paled to an almost white color. You feel well?" Lee nodded. "Yes, the drink is certainly unique. A bit bitter for human taste, but interesting." Whispers broke out among the aliens. One of the Valkyrie aides rushed to Tol-Nar and whispered frantically in his ear. "Perhaps we should continue with the trade discussions," Lee suggested, confused by the reaction but trying to keep things moving. Yes, of course," Tol-Nar said, his voice now shaky. "A simple misunderstanding with the ceremonial beverages. Nothing to concern ourselves with." The meeting continued, but Lee noticed how the Valkyrie kept watching him. Their black eyes followed his every move, as if waiting for something to happen. When the meeting ended 3 hours later, Lee returned to the Earth quarters with his team. "That went well," Park Jin said. "But did you notice how strangely they acted after the drink ceremony?" Lee nodded. Something wasn't right. They seemed afraid. "Of what? You just had a drink." "I don't know," Lee said, looking out the window at the stars. "But I think we've just discovered something important about the Valkyrie. Something they didn't want us to know." In their private chambers, Tol-Nar faced his science officer, Han Su. "Impossible," he hissed. "No species has ever survived the kiss of night. Yet this human shows no effects at all." Han Su looked troubled. "I must study their biology immediately. If humans are immune to our poison, then everything changes," Tol-Nar finished. The Valkyrie's greatest weapon may have just met its match. The Valkyrie ship sped through space toward their home planet. Inside the main chamber, Tol-Nar paced back and forth. His usual calm was gone. "This changes everything," he said to the small group of Valkyrie officials. "A species that can drink the kiss of night and live? It's never happened before." Han Su, the chief scientist, studied data on her screen. The human showed no signs of distress. Not even a raised heart rate. It's as if the poison was just water to him. Director Kwan, the oldest Vicari present, slammed his fist on the table. For 10,000 years, our poisons have kept us in power. No species has ever survived them. The room grew quiet. Everyone knew what Director Kwan said was true. The Vicari ruled the Galactic Confederation not through superior numbers or weapons, but through fear and their mastery of poisons. Their biochemical weapons were their true power. We must understand this immunity, Han Su said. I need to study humans more closely. Director Kwan nodded. Yes, and this must remain secret. If the other species learn that our poisons don't work on humans. He didn't finish the sentence. He didn't need to. 3 days later, the Vicari ship arrived at their homeworld. Vicari Prime was a beautiful blue-green planet with sprawling cities of crystal and metal. In the Grand Science Center, Han Su set up her new laboratory. Teams of scientists brought in data about Earth and humans. They worked day and night, studying everything they could learn. Fascinating, Han Su whispered as she looked at human DNA under a special scanner. Their genetic structure is not so different from other species, yet something makes them unique. Her assistant, Jae-won, looked over her shoulder. Could it be something in their evolution? Han Su nodded slowly. Earth has unusually high biodiversity. Their planet contains thousands of toxic plants and animals. Perhaps humans evolved special defenses. She pulled up images of Earth plants on a large screen. Look at these. Humans regularly consume plants that would kill most species. This coffee alone contains enough toxins to kill a Centauri. And this chili pepper would cause organ failure in a Draxian. Director Kwan entered the lab. His face showed deep worry. What have you discovered? Han Su took a deep breath. Director, I believe humans evolved on a planet so filled with toxins that they developed unique biological defenses. Their digestive system breaks down our poison before it can harm them. Can we create a new poison that will work on them? Possibly, but it will take time. Their bodies are remarkably adaptable. Director Kwan stared at the image of Earth rotating on a screen. These humans are more dangerous than they appear. If they share their immunity with other species, the Vicari's rule would end. Han Su finished. Exactly. Director Kwan's voice hardened. No one must know about this weakness. We must learn everything about humans while giving away nothing. He turned to leave, then stopped. And Han Su, develop a poison that will work on humans. We may need it very soon. After he left, Han Su stared at her data. For the first time in her career, she felt fear. Not of humans, but of what her own people might do to them. Jae-won, she said quietly, bring me all the data on human medical records. I need to understand exactly how their bodies process toxins. As her team rushed to obey, Han Su looked again at the human DNA model spinning on her screen. Such simple creatures to cause so much trouble. What other surprises do you have for us, humans? She whispered. Dr. Kim Dae frowned at his screen. Something was wrong with Commander Lee's blood test results. This can't be right, he muttered. Run it again. The medical lab on Earth's orbital station was small but modern. Every diplomat who returned from alien contact had to have a full checkup. It was standard procedure. The computer beeped. The results were the same. Park Jin, Dr. Kim called to his assistant. Come look at this. Park Jin, a young doctor with bright eyes, leaned over the screen. What am I looking at? Commander Lee's blood contains an unknown compound. The computer can't identify it. Park Jin looked closer. That's strange. Where did it come from? I don't know, but I need to talk to Commander Lee right away. Commander Lee sat on the examination table while Dr. Kim explained the test results. An unknown compound. Lee asked, is it dangerous? That's just it, Dr. Kim said. It should be extremely toxic based on its molecular structure, but your body seems to be breaking it down with no ill effects. Lee thought for a moment. Could it be something I ate or drank during the meeting with the Confederation? Possibly. Did you consume anything unusual? Just the ceremonial welcome drink. It was dark purple and bitter. Dr. Kim made notes. And how did the Vakari act after you drank it? Lee's eyes widened as he remembered. They seemed shocked, almost afraid. The room went completely quiet. Park Jin, who had been quiet until now, suddenly spoke up. Wait, let me see those molecular images again. Dr. Kim pulled up the screens. Park Jin studied them, his face growing more serious. This structure, it's similar to certain earth fungi, the deadly kinds that some humans have developed tolerance to over generations. Dr. Kim looked startled. Are you saying? I think, Park Jin said slowly, Commander Lee drank poison. Poison that should have killed him instantly. The three humans stared at each other as the realization sank in. They tried to kill me, Lee asked, his voice barely above a whisper. Maybe, Dr. Kim said, or maybe it was a test. Either way, you survived something that probably kills every other species in the Confederation. Park Jin tapped on his tablet. If I'm right, your gut bacteria neutralized the toxin. It's something unique to Earth's evolutionary path. Lee stood up and walked to the window. Earth's blue curve filled half the view. We need to report this to Earth Command. Dr. Kim hesitated. Wait. If the Vakari deliberately tried to poison you, telling everyone might damage our chances of joining the Confederation. But if they're using poison as a weapon, Lee began. Park Jin cut in. What if we investigate more first? Learn what we're dealing with before making accusations. Lee looked back at Earth through the window. Humanity had worked so hard to reach the stars, to join the galactic community. Could he risk all that? 3 days, he decided. We have 3 days until the next meeting with the Confederation. Let's use that time to learn more about this poison and why I survived it. Dr. Kim nodded. I'll analyze it further. Maybe we can create a test to see if all humans are immune or just you. And I'll research the Vakari, Park Jin added. There might be clues in what we already know about them. As they left the medical lab, none of them noticed the small device hidden in the air vent, a device that had just transmitted their entire conversation to a Vakari ship orbiting far from Earth's detection systems. In her listening post, a Vakari agent named Moon he smiled coldly. Director Kwan would want to hear this immediately. On the mining planet Sirius 7, Dr. Yoon checked over her shoulder before entering the hidden doorway. The meeting was dangerous, but necessary. The small room under the mining facility was packed with aliens from different species. All of them looked tired, but their eyes held determination. These were members of the Resistance, people who fought against Vakari control in secret. You're late, Baek's son said. The Resistance leader was a tall, lean alien with golden skin. I had to be careful, Dr. Yoon replied. Vakari patrols have doubled since last week. Baek's son nodded and called the meeting to order. 20 aliens from 12 species fell silent. Our friend Dr. Yoon has news, Baek's son announced. Important news from the Confederation's medical network. Dr. Yoon stepped forward. 3 days ago, something unprecedented happened. A human diplomat drank the kiss of night poison and survived. Gasps filled the room. One alien dropped a data tablet in shock. Impossible, someone whispered. I verified it myself, Dr. Yoon insisted. The Vakari are trying to keep it secret, but I saw the medical report. The human showed no effects from the poison. Baek's son's eyes widened. Are you certain? Completely. The Vakari are in panic. They've started a massive research project on human biology. The room erupted in excited talk. Baek's son raised a hand for silence. This could change everything, he said. For centuries, the Vakari have controlled us through their poisons. If humans are immune, we need to contact Earth, a blue-skinned alien said. Tell them what they've discovered. And warn them, added another. The Vakari will see humans as a threat now. Dr. Yoon nodded. I have a plan to send a message. but we must be careful. Vekari surveillance covers all official channels. Baek Sun thought for a moment. Use the mining corporation's private network. It's less watched. We must reach the humans before the Vekari act against them. Meanwhile, on Earth's orbital station, Dr. Kim and Park Jin worked through the night. Their lab was filled with data screens showing test results. "Look at this," Park Jin said excitedly. "It's the human gut bacteria. When the poison enters our digestive system, these bacteria break it down into harmless compounds." Dr. Kim studied the results. "And these bacteria are unique to Earth." "Yes, they evolved because of Earth's high oxygen content and our planet's unusual mix of foods and toxins." Dr. Kim ran a hand through his messy hair. "So all humans would be immune to this poison, not just Commander Lee." "Based on these tests, yes. Our natural gut flora protects us." Both scientists looked up as an alert sounded on their console. An encrypted message was coming in from an unknown source. "What is this?" Dr. Kim wondered. Accessing the message, words appeared on their screen. "Humans in danger. Vekari use poison to control HFY. Your immunity threatens them. Meet our agent at CCORDINATSBLO. Resistance awaits." "Resistance," Park Jin whispered. "What resistance?" Dr. Kim's face grew serious. "It seems the Vekari have enemies. Enemies who want to talk to us. Should we tell Commander Lee?" Before Dr. Kim could answer, the station's alarm began to sound. A voice came over the speaker system. "Attention all personnel. A Vekari diplomatic vessel has requested emergency docking. All medical staff report to Bay 12. Repeat, all medical staff to Bay 12. Dr. Kim and Park Jin looked at each other in alarm. "They're coming here," Park Jin said. "Now." Dr. Kim quickly saved the resistance message to a secure drive and deleted it from the main system. "We need to hide these test results," he said, "and decide quickly whether we trust this resistance or the Vekari who tried to poison Commander Lee." Ambassador Choi Min watched the Vekari delegates with careful eyes. Something had changed. Just days ago, the aliens had been welcoming. Now they kept the human delegation separate from other species. For cultural reasons, they said, but Choi Min didn't believe them. The grand meeting hall of the Confederation space station was divided into sections. Humans sat alone at their table, far from the other species. "They're isolating us," Choi Min whispered to Commander Lee. "Have you noticed?" Lee nodded slightly. Ever since that welcome ceremony, Choi Min had been Earth's top diplomat for 15 years. She knew when something wasn't right. "Tell me about that ceremony again." "The drink they gave you." As Lee described the purple liquid and the strange reaction of the Vekari, Choi Min's suspicion grew stronger. "And you felt nothing after drinking it? No illness? Nothing? Just a bitter taste?" Choi Min tapped her fingers on the table. "Commander, I think we need to." She stopped as Tol Nar, the Vekari ambassador, approached their table. His blue skin seemed paler than before. "Honored humans," he said with a tight smile. "I trust you are comfortable." "We are," Choi Min replied, "though we wonder why we are seated so far from the other delegations." Tol Nar's smile didn't reach his eyes. "Merely a courtesy. First contact can be overwhelming with so many species present." "How thoughtful," Choi Min said, not believing him for a second. After Tol Nar left, Choi Min leaned close to Lee. "Something happened with that drink. Something important. We need to find out what." Meanwhile, on Vekari Prime, Han Su stared at her test results in horror. Her hands trembled as she read the data again. "It can't be," she whispered. Director Kwan entered her lab. "Report your findings, scientist." Han Su took a deep breath. "The humans don't just survive the kiss of night. Their bodies actually break it down and eliminate it completely." "We know this already," Kwan said impatiently. "There's more." Han Su brought up a simulation on her screen. If humans are exposed to our poisons repeatedly, they could develop immunity to all Vicari biochemical weapons. Their adaptive immune system is unlike anything we've seen. Quan's face darkened. All our weapons? Impossible. The data is clear. And if they shared their gut bacteria with other species through medical procedures, they could make others immune too. Quan finished. He paced the lab, his robes swirling around him. This cannot become public knowledge. The Confederation would fall apart. Han Su looked troubled. What do you plan to do? Whatever is necessary. Quan's voice was cold. Create a new toxin specifically for humans, one their bacteria cannot neutralize. We must have a way to control them. As he left, Han Su stared at the human DNA model rotating on her screen. For the first time in her career, she questioned her work. Was she protecting her people or helping them commit a terrible crime? Back on the Confederation station, Choi Min received an encrypted message on her private device. She read it with growing alarm. Beware the EVEKARI. They rare you lowly through poison. Commander Lee's survived their D8 toxin. You are in grave danger. Resistance will CO and takes ET soon. Just then, an aide announced that dinner would be served in the main hall. All delegations were invited. Choi Min looked at Commander Lee with concern. If what this message says is true, we need to be extremely careful about what we eat and drink here. Lee nodded. And we need to find out who sent this warning. As they walked to dinner, neither noticed the shadowy figure watching them from an air duct. Mooney, the Vicari spy, reporting their every move back to Director Quan. The grand dining hall of the Confederation Space Station glittered with lights. All 16 species sat at their assigned tables. Servers moved quietly between them, bringing food made for each species' unique biology. Director Quan had arrived unexpectedly from Vicari Prime. He sat with Tol Nar, watching the human delegation carefully. Are you certain this will work? Tol Nar whispered. Quan nodded slightly. The new toxin targets their nervous system differently. Their gut bacteria cannot protect them this time. Across the room, Ambassador Choi Min and Commander Lee sat with the rest of the Earth delegation. 5 humans in total, all alert and careful. Eat and drink only what everyone else at our table eats and drinks. Choi Min had instructed them. We can't take chances. A server placed steaming plates before the humans. The food looked like colorful vegetables and some type of meat. It smelled good. Commander Lee noticed a Vicari server watching their table too closely. Something's wrong, he whispered to Choi Min. Before she could answer, a soft chime rang through the hall. Tol Nar stood for a toast. To peace and cooperation among all species, he said, raising his glass. Everyone raised their glasses and drank. The humans did too, but very carefully. 20 minutes into the meal, Lieutenant Park from the human delegation suddenly grabbed his throat. His face turned red. Next to him, Dr. Chen began to shake uncontrollably. Medical emergency. Choi Min shouted, jumping to her feet. The dining hall erupted in chaos. The other 3 humans, including Choi Min and Lee, felt dizzy but remained conscious. Medical staff rushed in. Most were Vicari, wearing white uniforms. Stand back, one said. We will handle this. No, Commander Lee said firmly. Our own doctor will treat them. Dr. Kim pushed through the crowd. He had been working in the station's lab and came running when he heard the alarm. He quickly injected Park and Chen with medicine from his own bag. Within minutes, their symptoms started to improve. Choi Min looked across the hall at Director Quan. The Vicari leader's face showed surprise and anger. They expected us all to die, she realized. Fury rose in her chest. She stepped into the center of the hall. Attention, representatives of the Confederation. There has been an attempt to poison the Earth delegation. Gasps and murmurs filled the room. This was no accident, she continued. Our people are ill because someone deliberately poisoned our food. Director Quan stood. These are serious accusations, Ambassador. Perhaps your species simply cannot tolerate standard Confederation food. 4 different species are eating the same meal at our table, Choi Min replied. Only humans were affected. Other delegations began talking loudly among themselves. Many looked at the Vekari with suspicion. A tall, golden-skinned delegate stood up. It was Beck's son, secretly the resistance leader, but publicly a mining corporation representative. The human ambassador speaks truth, he said in a loud, clear voice. For too long, the Vekari have used poisons to control the Confederation. Now they have tried to eliminate the one species immune to their primary weapon. The hall exploded in angry shouts and questions. Many delegates began to back away from the Vekari tables. Director Kwan's face darkened with rage. These are lies and conspiracies. The Vekari have led the Confederation in peace for thousands of years. But the damage was done. Doubt had been planted. Other species were now looking at the Vekari with new eyes. Choi Min helped her sick colleagues toward the exit. This isn't over, she said to Commander Lee. This is just the beginning. As they left, Dr. Kim whispered, I need to show you what we found in our lab. It explains everything. In the shadows, Moon Hee watched with narrowed eyes. The humans had survived again. Director Kwan would not be pleased. News spread fast through the Confederation. Within 3 days, every planet had heard about the humans who survived Vekari poison. The story grew with each telling. Some said humans could eat pure toxins for breakfast. Others claimed humans had special powers. On the mining world Sirius 7, Beck's son addressed the largest resistance meeting ever held. Over 200 aliens from 30 species packed the underground chamber. The time to act is now, Beck's son said. His voice echoed through the room. The Vekari are weakened. Their greatest weapon has failed. Dr. Hume stood beside him. I've spoken with Earth's doctors. They've confirmed that all humans have natural immunity to the kiss of night poison. The crowd murmured in excitement. We've waited generations for this chance. Beck's son continued. Today we begin our freedom. Each of you will return to your worlds with instructions. In 10 days we rise together. As the meeting ended, Dr. Yoon approached Beck's son privately. Have the humans agreed to help us? They will, Beck's son said. They must. Their very existence threatens Vekari power. The Vekari won't stop until all humans are dead. On Vekari Prime, Han Su worked alone in her lab. It was late night, and the science building was nearly empty. She looked at her screen once more, then made her decision. Quickly, she copied files to a small device and erased her tracks from the system. Years of research on poisons and their antidotes, all in her hand now. She had served the Vekari government loyally until she heard Director Kwan's new orders. Develop a bioweapon that will target Earth specifically. Make it airborne. We will eliminate the entire human species. Han Su couldn't be part of such a crime. She had taken an oath as a scientist to preserve life, not destroy it. A soft noise made her turn. Moon Hee stood in the doorway, watching. Going somewhere, scientist? Moon Hee asked. Her hand moved toward the weapon at her belt. Han Su tensed. The director's plan is wrong. Killing an entire species is necessary for our survival. Moon Hee finished. You've seen the reports. If humans share their immunity with others, the Vekari control ends. Perhaps it should end, Han Su said quietly. Perhaps ruling through fear was always wrong. Moon Hee drew her weapon. That's treason. Han Su's hand found the small device on her lab table, an experimental stun field. She activated it before Moon Hee could fire. The Vekari agent dropped to the floor, temporarily paralyzed. I'm sorry, Han Su said, but I must do what's right. 12 hours later, on the planet Centaur, a resistance cell received an unexpected visitor. My name is Han Su, she told the surprised aliens. I was chief scientist for Vekari biological weapons. I want to help you. At first, they didn't believe her. But the data she brought proved her story. The Vekari are planning to attack Earth with a bioweapon. she explained, "and I know how to stop it." The Zentari resistance leader sent an urgent message to Buck's son. HFY scientist defected. Brings critical information and poison antidotes. On the Confederation space station, Ambassador Choi Min met with representatives from 12 species. All had approached her secretly after the poisoning attempt. "We've lived under Vakari's shadow for too long," said a reptilian delegate. "If humans will stand with us, we're ready to fight." Choi Min looked at Commander Lee. This wasn't their fight, but it had become one. "Earth stands for freedom," she said finally. "We will help you." As the meeting ended, Dr. Kim rushed in with news. "Ambassador, a Vakari scientist has defected to the resistance. She's offering to help create antidotes that could protect all species from Vakari poisons." Choi Min's eyes widened. "This changes everything." "There's more," Dr. Kim added. "The Vakari are planning a direct attack on Earth. We have days, maybe hours, to prepare." Alarms blared throughout the Confederation space station. Emergency lights flashed red in every corridor. On the main viewing screen, everyone could see what triggered the alarms. Hundreds of Vakari warships appearing from hyperspace. The massive fleet surrounded the station like hungry predators. "By the stars," someone whispered. "They had this fleet hidden all along." In the emergency council chamber, representatives from all species gathered. Fear showed on every face. Director Kwan's image appeared on the large screen. His blue face looked cold and determined. "Confederation members," he began. "For thousands of years, the Vakari have guided you toward peace and prosperity. Now, rebels and humans threaten that peace." His eyes narrowed. "This fleet is one of many. Any world that supports the rebellion will face immediate destruction. Return to Vakari leadership, and peace will continue." The screen went dark. Silence filled the chamber. Then Ambassador Choi Min stood. Though small in height, her presence filled the room. "The Vakari speak of peace while threatening destruction," she said. "They speak of prosperity while keeping you dependent on them. This is not leadership. It is control through fear." She walked to the center of the room. "Earth may be new to your confederation, but we are not new to fighting for freedom. We will stand against this tyranny." A Zentari delegate shook his head. "Their fleet is too powerful. We cannot fight them." "Perhaps not alone," Commander Lee said, joining Choi Min. "But united with Earth's help we can." He activated his communication device. "Earth Command, this is Commander Lee. Request immediate deployment of the Liberty Fleet." The response came quickly. "Liberty Fleet moving to your position. ETA 6 hours." Baek's son stepped forward. "The Resistance has prepared for this day. We have supporters on every Vakari-controlled world, ready to act." For the next hour, they made plans quickly. Earth would provide military support. The Resistance would coordinate internal uprisings. Han Su would distribute her antidote formula to protect key leaders from poison attacks. "We must send our answer to the Vakari," Choi Min said when they finished planning. The chamber doors opened, and Tolnar entered with 4 armed guards. "The director awaits your surrender," he said coldly. Choi Min faced him without fear. "Tell Director Kwan we have a different answer." She handed Tolnar a data device. "The Vakari will relinquish control of the Confederation and stand trial for their crimes against sentient beings. If they refuse, they face war not just with humans, but with all free species." Tolnar laughed. "You think you can challenge us? Our fleet can destroy Earth before your ships even arrive." "Perhaps," Commander Lee said. "But can you stop the rebellion already beginning on your own worlds? Your control is ending, Tolnar. The question is how much blood will be shed before you accept it." Tolnar's face darkened with anger. "You'll regret this defiance, all of you." He stormed out with his guards. As the doors closed, Baek's son turned to the others. "It begins now. We have 6 hours before Earth's fleet arrives. We must survive until then." Throughout the station, people prepared for battle. Some evacuated to escape pods. Others armed themselves with whatever weapons they could find. In a small medical lab, Han Su worked frantically with Dr. Kim and Dr. Yoon, producing as much antidote as possible. "Will Earth really stand with us?" Dr. Yoon asked quietly. Commander Lee nodded. "Humans know what it means to fight for freedom. We won't abandon you." On the bridge of his command ship, Director Kwon received the humans' message. His face contorted with rage as he read it. "They dare to threaten us. Prepare all weapons," he ordered. "Earth dies today." Space lit up with weapons fire. The Vicary fleet had launched its attack on the Confederation station. Their massive warships fired bright blue energy beams. But the station's shields held, upgraded by human engineers just hours before. In the command center, Commander Lee coordinated the defense. "Earth fleet will arrive in 30 minutes. We just need to hold until then." Across the galaxy, something extraordinary was happening. On 23 worlds, people rose up against Vicary control. The resistance, hidden for generations, finally showed its true strength. On Vicary Prime itself, thousands marched in the streets. Not all Vicary supported their government's actions. Many had been kept in the dark about how their leaders really controlled the Confederation. "No more rule by poison," they chanted. "No more lies." Director Kwon watched in rage as reports came in from every front. His perfect system of control was falling apart. "Launch the attack on Earth immediately," he ordered. "Send half the fleet." His commanders hesitated. "But sir, that would leave us exposed here." "Do it now," Kwon shouted. "Destroy the humans, and the rebellion will collapse." As his ships prepared to jump to hyperspace, dozens of new signals appeared on their scanners. Earth's Liberty fleet had arrived, and it was twice as large as expected. "Impossible," Kwon whispered. On the lead Earth battleship, Admiral Yoon smiled grimly. "All ships, engage the enemy. Protect the station at all costs." The battle was fierce. Vicary ships had advanced weapons, but Earth vessels were more maneuverable. And they were not fighting alone. Ships from other Confederation species joined the fight, targeting the Vicary fleet from all sides. In the chaos, a small transport ship slipped through the battle lines. Aboard were Commander Lee, Bok's son, and a small team of humans and aliens. "Approaching Vicary Prime," the pilot reported. "Their defenses are focused on the main battle." Their mission was the most dangerous of all, to capture Director Kwon and end the war. Han Su guided them to a secret landing pad near the government center. "The director will be in the secure command bunker," she said. "I can get us in." They moved quickly through the city, joining crowds of protesting Vicary citizens for cover. The planet was in chaos. In his bunker, Director Kwon received the news of defeat after defeat. His fleet was losing. Rebellions were spreading. Even his own people were turning against him. "Prepare my escape ship," he ordered his remaining loyal guards. The door to the command center exploded inward. Commander Lee and his team rushed in, weapons ready. "It's over, Director," Lee said. "Surrender now." Kwon looked at the human with pure hatred. "You did this. One human who wouldn't die properly." He pulled out a small vial of liquid. "This is the most concentrated form of our poison. No being can survive it." Before anyone could stop him, Kwon threw the liquid into Lee's face. Everyone froze. Han Su gasped. That amount would kill 1,000 people. Lee wiped his face calmly. He blinked a few times, then focused on Kwon again. "Are you finished?" he asked quietly. Kwon collapsed into his chair, defeated. "How? It's not possible." "You never understood," Lee said. "Humans don't just tolerate poison. We adapt. We grow stronger from challenges. Your poison was never going to work on us." 3 months later, representatives from all Confederation species gathered on Earth for a historic meeting. The war was over. The Vicary government had fallen. Ambassador Choi Min addressed the Great Assembly. "Today, we sign a new Confederation charter, one based on equality and cooperation," not fear and control. In the front row sat Han Su and Dr. Kim, now working together to help other species develop natural immunity to toxins. Beside them, Baek Sun represented the former resistance, now helping build a new government. The universe is full of dangers, Choi Min concluded, but it is also full of wonders. Together, we can face both. As the new charter was signed, Commander Lee looked out at the diverse gathering of aliens and humans, all because he took a sip of the wrong drink. Sometimes, the smallest actions change the universe forever.